The Texans yesterday flipped off the entire world by getting another win and getting to 3-3 heading into the bye as they beat the New Orleans Saints yesterday. But Josh, you found this tweet, I guess, yesterday about the Texans defense and building it up, and you have a problem with it, I guess.
Not really a problem.
Not building it up, or I should say, but just explain yourself.
It's not necessarily a problem. It's just I want to figure out if we all just think that it's an incorrect statement. So Brett Coleman, who he does a lot of NFL coverage, does his own NFL content creation. He's really one of the really big NFL creators on YouTube. Got like hundreds of thousands of followers, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of subscribers on YouTube. He does a really good job of doing football coverage. And as we branch more out where it's not just a bunch of jabronis like us sitting behind a microphone, there are other people doing cool content around the world of sports too. And he's one of those guys who I like to go and watch a lot of his breakdowns, how he talks about teams. But he tweeted out yesterday, DeMeco Ryans really built a top 10 defense in a cave with a box of scraps. And we look at that, and I know how we talked about this defense going into the season. And we know, I know that it's not like a crazy talented roster. But do we really think that this defense is just a bunch of scraps that DeMeco Ryans duct taped together?
No.
I don't think so either. And the thing that I liked yesterday about the Texans is that may have been one of the gutsier defensive performances that they've had so far. They've had moments where they've been tested and failed. We saw that last week against the Falcons. We saw it against the Indianapolis Colts. We've also seen weeks where they've just had a lot of success, and there wasn't really that much of a test because they just succeeded early on. Yesterday, the defense did something that it's the reason why they won the game, and we just haven't seen from them so far for the majority of the year, where that bend but don't break defense that DeMeco is bringing to a roster that maybe isn't the best but still has some pieces on it actually worked out for them. And they won in red zone defense almost the entire day.
Yeah.
Red zone defense looked really good. And so you look at this team and you look at the talent that maybe it's devoid in some spots. Like, yes, maybe Will Anderson would have a little bit more success if there were better defensive tackles on that line with him. Yes, it would be probably a little bit better. We wouldn't have to worry about tight ends nearly as much or some other things nearly as much, or the run game if the linebackers, there's maybe one or two more guys who are a little bit more talented in that linebacker core, although Blake Cashman looked incredible yesterday in a lot of different spots. But you look top to bottom of the defense, I feel like there are a lot of really good pieces that are playing really well for the Texans, and it's not just scraps. Like Jalen Petrie, not scraps. Will Anderson,
second-round pick.
Yeah.
They have a high expectation for him.
Very high expectations.
And he's played like one of the better safeties in football.
Right. And Will Anderson, number 3 overall pick, and
he's not getting the numbers, but he's still making some impacting spots.
He was dominant yesterday. Yeah. Like he had, I can't remember how many it was. I think DJ Bieneme tweeted it out. How many quarterback hits Willie Anderson had yesterday? He led the league in almost sacks in yesterday alone. It's wild how much he was back there. And one of the sacks that we saw, specifically the sack with Jonathan Grenard and Malik Collins, where they sacked Carr, was 100% because of what Will Anderson did on that play. He was in the backfield before they could even do anything. It made Derek Carr step up almost immediately, and he stepped right up into Jonathan Grenard and Malik Collins. So, like, I just don't this concept that people keep bringing out where, DeMeco, I love what DeMeco's doing. He's calling a great defense, but it's not like it's just a bunch of scraps, and that's why we're seeing more success from the Texans, where the roster isn't as bad as what people thought. Yeah. And DeMeco Ryans is doing a really good job.
In the last couple of years, they were playing with, a bunch of one-year deal guys.
Right.
And it's not Derek Stingley because he can't stay on the field, so we can't count him. He has been a nothing for the Texans. So far, he's been a missed draft pick.
Yes.
No other way around it. But overall, they've found enough players in other spots in the draft to where you're right. They have a core of players that they're building around on that side of the football. Now they have to continue to supplement that, and they've done that in a certain spot. And I think one of the guys, unheralded, a couple of them. I mean, Steven Nelson has really played well this year. He stepped his game up from last year. How much of that is the scheme, getting away from Lovie Smith's archaic defense? How much does that matter?
Tampa 2. It still works. Don't worry. Keep using it.
To just the energy that this team plays with. The other one's Jimmy Ward. I mean, I think just the leadership alone that Jimmy Ward brought with him and understanding what DeMeco wants and doing all those things, like those things matter. So, no, it's not a scrap heap of players.
No, it's
Are there
not.
some of those free agents that they signed that are older players that are later in their careers? Absolutely.
But they're still positive players. They're still plus players. And so it's disrespect. It is a little disrespectful to call them scraps. Jonathan Grenard had a great game yesterday. We said we needed to see more from the pass rush against the Saints. I thought that the pass rush, by and large, even though we didn't get the Will Anderson stats that we wanted to see, I thought the pass rush looked good for the most part. Blake Cashman looked great at linebacker, but the linebackers struggled a little bit. But the secondary looked really good. The best part about D'Amico's defense and why Jimmy Ward is so big for them, his defense does such a good job of disguising coverages. You never know what you're going to get play in and play out from it, and they do such a great job of really mixing it up on guys. And there were plays where the pass rush got there because Derek Carr just didn't know where to go with the ball. I wish they would have started doubling Chris Olave a little bit quicker because he was torching them.
Yeah, some of the stuff, like you mentioned yesterday too, with Taysom Hill having a career game as a tight end, basically. That was all. Also, can we go ahead and point this out? Okay, I know that they want to keep. Taysom Hill has the ability to go throw the football, and they keep that deception to their offense or whatever.
Yeah.
Why didn't he just put on a second glove at some point? He's out there the entire day.
Just one glove, yeah.
Lining up as a receiver with one glove on the entire time. I'm like, well, dude, just put the second glove on. We know that you're not throwing the ball in this game. They are using you as a tight end. You're catching everything. How many targets did he end up having yesterday?
I want to say
it had to be. It felt like at least 10.
I want to say it was.
He had 11. He had 8 targets.
He had 8 targets.
He only had 49 yards. He caught 7 passes.
That's wild. Yeah. And that's the thing. I keep talking about the linebacker core, and I have a couple of people specifically who are like, well, the linebackers aren't as bad as you think. The linebackers aren't as bad as you think. Dude, when Taysom Hill is torching you for 7 catches, and not torching, I guess he's not torching. They struggle. They're not awful, but they definitely struggle. That is the one area where I'd like to see a little bit more consistency, because we've seen Toto have really good games. He was okay yesterday. We've seen, but yesterday I thought Blake Cashman was great, but he's had games where he hasn't been that big of a factor. They're not bad. They just need more consistency across the board. When it comes to coverage, they have gotten a lot better, but in the run game, they've just struggled a little bit. I do think they did a pretty decent job, other than outside of like a couple of bigger runs, and not huge runs, but bigger runs. I thought they did a good job of bottling up Alvin Kamara, at least definitely in the red zone.
He is. I haven't watched a lot of Saints football in recent years. I watched him early in his career because there was a time where I worked somewhere else where I did a Houston show and a New Orleans show in one day. So I had to watch Saints football. He has put on, it feels like, a lot of. He's gotten so much bigger as his career has gone along.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how thick he is these days till I saw him yesterday.
Yeah.
I know, go ahead and make that whatever you want, you sexual freaks.
We're not making it.
Yes, you are. You're going to do it.
No, I absolutely wasn't. Why'd you have to take it that direction?
Because I'm just getting out ahead of it.
Yeah, getting out ahead of it. You took it in a really weird direction. Have you ever watched the stuff that Alvin Kamara does to the way he trains? Some of the things he does to train balance. He'll stand on what are those called? Bosu balls or whatever, where you can. It's like a half of it is a medicine ball. The other half
I see
is
people
the platform.
stand on these every day at the gym, and I go, "You're an psycho person. I'm never getting on one of those."
He'll stand on one of those with one foot, balance himself, and have people throw oblong objects at him that he has to catch. Like not footballs or balls.
He's taking the Jameis Winston approach to this.
Well, I think he did it before Jameis Winston did, and he's been doing it for a while.
You got to quit working out that way. Just normal workouts are fine.
You say that, but then he had one of the catches that he had yesterday was like a weird off-kilter.
Was he catching like knives?
For the most part, it looks like it. Yeah,
like hot irons.
You have to be able to catch any weird oblong bobble throw that Derek Carr throws to you. He had that one dump off to Alvin Kamara that looked like it went like 25 feet in the air, and it took 40 years to come down into Kamara's hands. But Kamara has some really nice off-balance catches, and it does help him absorb some of those tackles and stay upright a little bit better. There's a reason why he's been as good as he has been.
Wasted his entire career there in New Orleans.
That's very true.
Not really. They were actually good early on.
Yeah.
Drew Brees at the end of his career was still not the worst thing in the world.